kind of refresh your memory, there are, excuse me, sorry. There, with both of these cases, there are 2,428 acres involved. The Upper Magnolia Green East is again the residential piece that is known as Case 21 SN 0675, and it is approximately 700 acres. The Upper Magnolia Green West site, which is the I-2 CUPD case, is the 1,728 plus or minus acres. So it's much larger and it is west of the Powhite. That is the determining factor as to east and west is the alignment of Powhite, proposed Powhite running through the middle of that property. Next slide. Oh, I got it. Just to kind of catch you up on what we've done since the last Planning Commission meeting, or not, I'm sorry, this is basically where we are to date with community meetings and work sessions that we have. We started this process back in September 21st with a community meeting at CTC Hall, and then had another meeting in December 16th here in the public meeting room, as well as, of course, the Planning Commission meeting on the 21st. We had a virtual Zoom meeting with the Summer Lake and Westerly communities on January 6th, and we had a in-person community meeting at CTC Hall again with the Mosley Road residents and others. And today we have our work session again. So this is the 6th time we've had kind of a public session on what's going on with the particular case. All of this information, each of these meetings have been recorded, and videos and companion presentations have been posted on our special web page that we've put together for this project. And except for the January 13th community meeting we just had, I believe we didn't have a video for that particular project. And what did we hear at these 6 different sessions? We've had a variety of community comments that have come in either at these meetings or from the web page, and but they pretty much kind of break down into these 6 different primary issues with the 2 cases. First being buffers. And there has been a lot of discussion about buffers, and particularly to the Upper Magnolia Green West case, the I-2 CUPD case. Residents in that area are concerned with the proximity of the building construction and the uses of their existing homes, obviously. 2, uses. It's also important concern for the residents surrounding the Upper Magnolia Green West, primarily the different uses that are being proposed within this zoning case. Number 3, the Westerly Parkway. The ultimate design of Westerly Parkway has been widely discussed with the Westerly and Summer Lake community and mostly the residents that have been following the Upper Magnolia Green East case. There's also concerns from those same communities along the east side of future Powhite with the number of schools and associated access points to these public uses in proximity to their neighborhoods. And timing of the construction of the north-south road to Duval. In a later slide, I'll be kind of showing where that north-south road runs and why the timing of that construction is important, and that will be touched on by the Transportation Department also. And then finally, I think there's been a general desire to have continued community engagement as this project moves forward and the projects develop. You've seen this master plan a few times. This is the master plan, a colorized master plan that was pulled out of the 91 case, which was 81 SN 0343. This was the Magnolia Green rezoning case. In this, there were approximately 4,886 dwelling units that were proposed within this project. What you see color-wise here in front of you, the yellow is single-family detached. The brown that you might see on the map, or orange, is the multifamily tracts that were kind of conceptually shown on this, as well as the darker red being the retail or commercial areas within that project. Overall, the zoning was a pretty massive project. As I mentioned, there were almost 5,000 dwelling units allowed within the project. There was roughly over 500,000 square feet of retail allowed, and almost right over 900,000 square feet of office that was all allowed within the project, as well as 320,000 square feet of office warehouse. So a pretty big mix of uses all within this particular project. As it has worked out, the lower Magnolia green area has developed out with about 2,644 units thus far in that area, and up here there's about 1,336 or units that would be allowed. So there's a little bit, about 900 plus units, I think 903 units that are still allowed within the lower Magnolia to be built. But this 13,336 is one of the issues we're trying to deal with the rezoning of this property. For the eastern side, the piece that we're looking at here, we're looking at bringing that number down to about 600 units. So you'll see that not to exceed 600 units. So as we go further into the report, you can see a pretty substantial reduction in the number of dwelling units that could be allowed within the northern or upper Magnolia green portion of the project. As you have all been told a couple times now, the county purchased upper Magnolia green, which you see kind of outlined in red here, in December of 2020. And that was right at I believe 1,850 acres were purchased there, and that's basically all of this along here that you kind of see in a red, and the kind of outline in red piece here, all along in here. All that made up that first piece that came to the board for initiation in September. After that, in October, 589 additional acres, which you see in green here, were also initiated. Once both of those pieces had been initiated, the staff moved forward with creating an electronic application using the county's new electronic land management system, the ELM system. There's been some discussions and confusion as to where the application is for this particular project. It is all a digital program within the ELM project. All the materials and information that are used to create this electronic application are now shown either on our web page that we have so that everybody can see what was on that application, or you can actually go on to ELM and to the ELM portal and see the information that's been submitted yourself. So just to make sure everybody kind of is clear as to what's been submitted thus far. We have met all the requirements that we typically would for any other type of project in reference to moving forward with a rezoning case.
Mr. Gillies?
Yes.
I have a question. Back on the previous slide, the additional properties that are in there.
Yes.
Do we have, as a county, do we own those properties?
No.
Or do we have a contingent offer on them?
We have power of attorney that's been given to us, and a contract is in the works.
Thank you.
Okay. But we do have all the power of POAs in place for representing them with the zoning case. Again, what you see in blue is the 1,700 acres, basically, that's Magnolia West. What you see in orange there, or yellow, is the east, the residential case. What you see in the purple running through the middle of that is the general alignment of the POIT that's been in place since 1991 with the, or even before that, actually the 89 thoroughfare plan showed that general alignment for the POIT. And we're using that as the separation point before these two cases, trying to keep all the, the residential and the public facilities, the schools, the libraries, those type of uses on the yellow piece that you see, and the I-2 CUPD and those type of employment center things on on the bluer side of, on the west side of the Powhite. Here is basically kind of starting to look at the Upper Magnolia Green West side a little bit in more detail. Here is the concept plan that we're working from for the case. What you see basically in this right now is some of the buffers that are along both the future alignment of the Powhite, which is right here. That is what's being proposed for some buffering between the roadway and the industrial uses. And then what you see on the back side, there is a proposed buffer, what we're calling a perimeter buffer, that runs all along the pieces that outline the rest of this west side. So basically the whole project, the 1,700 acres, is going to be encapsulated in some sort of buffer width as the project moves forward. And as to the actual width of those buffers, I'm going to get into that a little bit more, but part of the beauty of this particular zoning case is to try to keep as much as we can clear in the middle portion of the site. We don't know, we don't have any, as Mr. Hart mentioned, we don't have any type of potential businesses coming here yet. We don't know the size of the lots that they would want or the sites they have. So trying to keep that area as open as possible, but still having some design standards in place is the general direction that we'd like to go with this particular project. And having this kind of green outline of buffers all around the property, as well as trying to make sure that we put in some good design standards later with the interior portion of the site is the basic method that we're trying to move forward with the Upper Magnolia West case. As I've mentioned, this is a rezoning for the west side from R9 to an agricultural to an I2 CUPD that would allow for the development of a technology village consisting of an employment generation uses such as advanced manufacturing, research and development, office, commercial uses, and public facilities, including a fire station and the water tower. So that's all that's really being asked for. I know one of the questions we've gotten and concerns we've had all along on this case so far is the use of the zoning category of I2. And within the I2 zoning district, as you all know, we have hundreds of uses. In fact, we have over 211 different uses that are within I2. And on top of that, we have 134 conditional use uses that could be allowed within those zoning districts. So that's a lot, and it's kind of a scary category if you just look at it that way, which is one of the reasons why early on in this process, economic development and administration decided that let's limit it to just the 8 uses that within I2 that are really needed to create a technology village. So here are the 8. None of the other 203 uses are allowed within the Upper Magnolia Green. It's just these 8 that would be allowed, and it would be computer equipment manufacturing, a data center, electronic component and accessory manufacturing, laboratory, offices, pharmaceutical products and manufacturing, plastic products manufacturing, and research and development facilities. That's it. There's nothing else that would be allowed within that zoning category. We do have a few other uses that are accessory to those permitted uses, contractors' offices and shop storage area, machine shops, and then warehouses. And so to give you an idea of what this means is you can't have a standalone, warehouse that just does nothing but just distributes products, such as an Amazon or something like that. The warehouse would have to be directly affiliated with one of those 8 permitted uses. It would have to be the warehouse for maybe a computer product that's being manufactured on the site, or maybe a pharmaceutical use that's being done on that site. That's it. You cannot just have a standalone warehouse use within this particular project. That's not the focus of this particular project. In addition to those 8 primary uses and these 3 accessory uses, the only 2 other uses that we're looking at is a fire station and a water tower. And those 2, unfortunately, just the way we have our I-2 written, require a conditional use to be within an I-2 district. So that's the reason we're having a CUPD for this project, is to allow for a future a fire station if they need that, and a water tower as needed.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sloan?
So Andy, so a question and some clarification. You just mentioned that a 200-foot buffer around the perimeter, unless I'm reading something wrong, the proffers say 100 feet. And why have we gone down, so when we did the Matoaca mega site, the perimeter buffering was 300 feet. And we had specific buffers and specific landscaping designs, landscape C for the interior roads. Should we expect those additions to the proffers that, on this case?
It's still in a work in progress at this point. The actual, I'm going to get, next slide I was going to do is start talking about some of the buffer proffers that were currently in the set of proffers that you have before you today. These were the ones that were submitted by EDA as their first blush at of proffers to go through for the project for the Powhite Parkway. Because it's an industrial use and because of trying to provide as much area as possible for development, they're proposing a 50-foot buffer at this point within their proffers along the Powhite. Staff is still proposing the use of a minimum of at least a 200-foot buffer along that Powhite. That is still one of the things that we're working on. As for the schedule of landscaping or trees that are within the natural buffer, most of this property out here is pretty heavily wooded already, and we don't foresee a much need for additional Schedule C or some other type of definition of additional vegetation to be added to the existing natural buffer there, but if need be, that could be added into the case for sure. For the perimeter buffer, the set of proffers that you have before you today outlines a 100-foot buffer. Staff is now proposing, after some of the language discussions we've had with property owners out in that area and looking at some of the positioning of the houses that are in that general area, staff is proposing a minimum of at least 200 feet along some of the perimeter buffer there that we showed you a little earlier on the slide. So that is one of the differences that you see in the package that you have before you, the proffers you have before you today, and what staff's been recommending back to the EDA for future buffer sizes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Fry.
So Director Gillies, when you're talking about additional distance maintained from existing residential units, would that be in the form of additional buffering or a required setback?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't really touch on that yet. Basically, it could be a couple different ways. It would be most likely some sort of setback and not just an additional buffer. And we would, if the house is set, I'm just using an example of maybe 100 feet back from the property line and making sure maybe there's at least an additional distance between maybe the back of that house and where a building could occur. We'd set some sort of standards up on that, in addition to the 200-foot natural buffer that's already in there. Some of the comments we heard was we don't want to be too close to the development, and the idea of having a bit more of space between that is a reasonable request for us to try to work at and research and see if there's a way we can provide a bit more spacing between the actual vertical buildings within the site and the existing residential units that are in that area, basically along the Mosley Road area.
And Director Gillies, along those lines, if there berming is sometimes used for visual screening and sound attenuation. Would the case provide that if there were any berming, it would be inside that buffer? It wouldn't be taking the place of that buffer. It would be, you'd have your property line, you'd have your buffer, and then if you needed a berm, it would be outside this minimum buffer.
That's one of the discussions we're still having. We have not reached a conclusion as to if the buffer could be part of the 200-foot buffer or be, outside of that and be even further into the property.
Thank you.
Moving on, I've kind of already explained the width of the buffers that we're looking at, so let's move on to the next slide there. Bring this over just a little bit for you. Oh, thank you. Okay. Other items of interest for the Upper Magnolia Green West Technology Village side is the creation of a master plan. Part of this proposal is before we get into having site plans submitted and so forth, the idea of creating a more comprehensive master plan that would be in place for all of the 1,700 acres and would allow for a more coordinated effort of providing signage for landscaping, screening, pedestrian connections, architectural programs. These things would be created in the next, I'm just picking a number of, 6 to 9 months after the development of, or the approval of the zoning case, and would be put in place before any of the site plans could be approved within the 1,700 acre technology village. Screening is another issue that's already been spelled out pretty well in the set of proffers that you have there. The exterior rooftop equipment, trying to screen those. The outdoor storage areas are always an issue we have, as well as dock doors and things like that. So those are all aspects that we're addressing within the screening proffer that's being developed. Pedestrian connections and trails, the applicant want to create a safe pedestrian connections and the design and development in order to facilitate pedestrian movement in the various areas of the property where pedestrian movement is proposed by the applicant. Final trail alignment shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department and the environmental engineering department as we go through the plan review. And the hope is to have a trail system that could work towards getting to Horner Park. We do have some opportunities for building a trail system, maybe somehow, some way get it up to the park area is the direction we'd like to move towards on that. With the development of a master plan, comprehensive master plan for the whole 1,700 acre area, the idea was to try to keep it with a general type of attractive development that we've seen in Meadowville Technology Park. This is an example of the type of development, the campus style of manufacturing development we would be encouraging with that master development plan. Quickly kind of moving towards the description of the Upper Magnolia Green East side.
Mr. Gillies?
Yeah, I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Fry?
Before we go to the east, I
Sure.
did want to go all the way back, Director Gillies, and look at the issues list that you presented
Okay.
and the categories that you had. I have received several emails from folks about concerns that citizens have raised, and I had a couple of others that were gleaned from those emails that I thought
Okay.
should be considered, and I wanted to mention them now.
Sure.
One is stormwater retention, how that's going to be handled, and connected with that is protecting the Swift Creek Reservoir.
Okay.
So I think those may be connected, and wastewater. How would wastewater be handled depending upon the type of use that would be developed?
Okay. I think both environmental engineering and utilities will be handling some of that today if we get to them.
So thank you for adding those.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Sloan.
Also, Andy, just out of curiosity, when we look at the overall nature of the project, and we look at Mr. Hart's presentation, where the objective is clean, quiet, limited visual, and reduced trucks, I don't see any proffered conditions that speak to performance standards in the project.
It's a good point, and I think we are entering kind of that aspect of the proffers to see what might work in reference, you're referring to like for sound or for other types of noise, dust, things like that?
Any.
Yeah. I think those are coming. We really haven't had it in this round of proffers, but the idea of putting some of those within a industrial park project makes sense. There is so much land here that some of those issues I don't think are as important as maybe they could be with a more of an industrial style, but with the limited number of uses that we have here and the amount of land that we have, I think having some safeguards in place would still be something we need to work towards, for sure.
Andy, just as a general comment, we've all worked lots of cases. I've worked more than my fair share of the industrial cases down in the Bermuda District. We've always had them.
Okay.
Mr. Gillies, can we go back to the conceptual plan for Matt Green from the 91 case? So on this, I wanted to make a note for the other commissioners. Mr. Carroll forwarded me the original case from 91, and the thoroughfare plan and the Powhatan Parkway and all that were originally included in that plan. The developer at that time decided they did not want to do it, and the Planning Commission recommended denial of this case at a 5-0 vote and sent it to the Board of Supervisors. So part of where we are with traffic started back in 1991. I just want to make sure the commissioners were aware of that case from 91.
We also had a case called Brainerd Station that faced a similar fate.
Okay, I'm going to kind of get through the east stuff here. Again, it's the 700 acres would be for the piece to the east, east of Powhite, 700 acres, 200 of which, 150 to 200 acres would be for schools and school complex or other public facilities. There's been a discussion of having 3 schools within this 150, 200 acres, as well as a library and plenty of ball fields and everything else. There's an exhibit I'll show here in a minute that kind of shows the general conceptual layout of that they're talking about for that. And then the remaining 500 acres within this zoning case would be for single-family detached R15, which is a 15,000 square foot lot, basically a third acre in size, and a cap limit of 600 single-family dwelling units within that remaining 500 acres. So much more of a downsizing than the existing R9 that's there. And actually, most of the surrounding communities there have more dense development than what's being proposed here with the R15. And this is just being straight zoned. We're not putting any CUPDs in this, so it just have to meet the requirements of the R15 along with some of the proffers that they're proposing. Here's a general conceptual plan for the east side. It's showing the kind of the green pod areas as being the areas of development for R15 single-family detached housing. The blue is showing the school site, the 150 to 200 acres for that. The brown or orange that you see is in either open space or environmentally sensitive property that's being would be controlled and hopefully conserved within that area with review by the Environmental Engineering Department and the Planning Department. The idea of trying to run a very comprehensive trail system throughout this property, the 700 acres, up to Westerly and beyond, and eventually taking that all the way up to Horner Park is one of the directions we'd like to see happen with this. The idea that we could really connect all these future single-family detached areas by trail, pedestrian trails to the future school sites is one of the kind of the nice, unique features that we think would be a real asset to Chesterfield to see happen in this area, where you could bike to school, or you could walk to school, or walk your kid to school. With that said, we also are showing the 200-foot buffer that basically runs along that eastern side of Powhite Parkway. Here is the school site that's being proposed. There's the three schools at this point. The high school is basically in this area. The middle school being proposed here, an elementary school. Even a library is being proposed, and then a lot of synergy type projects with ball fields and other cultural uses to be shared between the high school and the middle school is one of the plans for being kind of a consolidated school campus area for all three levels of school as part of the concept here. There has been some discussion at some of the community meetings about lessening the number of schools in this area, but at this point, the idea of keeping all three schools in this 150 to 200 acre area is part of the plan. I've mentioned, I think earlier, about the north-south road. Basically, the north-south road that we're talking about is this here, which would serve from Westerly all the way down to Duval here at the bottom. You can't really see it, but it's further down. That connection starts to relieve a lot of the future traffic issues that could occur with the Westerly as you go further to the east. And I think transportation is going to talk about that a little bit in a minute.
Mr. Gillies?
Yeah.
One of the things that was mentioned at one of the community meetings is that, if I'm not mistaken, when these school sites are fully built out, that it's going to put around 10,000 cars on Westerly Parkway. And Westerly Parkway goes out onto Otterdale Road, so we're taking roughly 10,000 cars possibly on Westerly from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane road on Otterdale. That was mentioned at one of the meetings. I think it was the Westerly community meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to let transportation
Okay.
answer some of those volume questions for you. Not sure they would agree with those numbers.
Okay.
The buffer I've already covered was the 200-foot buffer along the Powhite, and again, the connectivity of the trails with that concept plan is another important part that we're trying to keep as part of the master plan for this overall east side of the project. Also, with R15, we normally do not have any common area requirement within that. For this one, we were looking at having some additional common area requirements to be included with that R15 development. So it would be the trails that would somehow count with that, but the idea that we'd still be getting some amenities within these new R15 areas as we go forward. Also in the proffers, I'm not going to go through all of them, was the kind of the site and architectural designs. They're very similar to sets of proffers you've seen before for some of the more current cases that we've had. Limitation on materials and driveway materials, sidewalks, stoops, decks, all those things have been incorporated in the first set of proffers for this residential side, the R15. And then, again, trying to create a master plan for this east side too, so they will tie in with the trail system, eventually with the school complex to the north there, and create a good mix of public facility uses and accessibility, along with the future residential development on this east side. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and let environmental engineering come up and talk about some of their proffers in both cases.